So what happens when just one person, working out of a small lab in India, decides to take on the biggest questions in the entire universe? Well, today, we're going to dive into the fascinating story of Loki Laboratories. It's a journey that kicks off on a university campus, and believe me, it ends up questioning the very fabric of reality itself. Just look at this title. This is from one of the lab's actual research proposals. It pretty much tells you everything you need to know, right? Right off the bat, you can tell we're not talking about small, incremental stuff here. We're talking about the biggest questions you can possibly ask. So, what is Loki Laboratories? On paper, sure, it's a research entity in Tirupati, India. But here's the real kicker. It's a solo proprietorship. And that means it's not some huge state-funded institute or a massive corporate R&D wing. Nope. This whole thing is the vision and the effort of just one person working completely on their own. And that vision, it is wildly ambitious. According to the website, the lab's mission was to do research across physics, math, and even medicine. And the goal wasn't just theory, either. They wanted to build actual products and team up with bigger companies. Talk about aiming high. You know, a vision this huge, spanning all these different fields, it naturally makes you wonder, who's the person actually behind all this? Well, let's meet the founder of Loki Laboratories, Ankam Lokesh Kumar. This is him, Ankam Lokesh Kumar. He's a chemical engineer by training, and he's the founder and the primary and really the only researcher driving everything that Loki Laboratories was trying to do. His career path tells such a cool story. So after he gets his degree, he starts Loki Labs in early 2022. For a little over 3 years, he's just grinding it out as an independent scientific researcher. Then, March 2025, there's a big pivot. He takes on a new role as a graduate engineering trainee at a major corporation, the Adani Group. This timeline is really the key to understanding this whole journey. So, what was he actually working on during those 3 years of solo research? What kind of universal questions was he really digging into? Okay, get this. This is one of the research titles, just Force of Everything Force. I mean, it's super conceptual, right? It's basically hinting at a search for a grand unified theory. You know, that one single force that could explain everything in the universe. It's bold, it's abstract, and it really sets the tone for his work. But he wasn't just stuck on physics. Then you see a title like this, which shows he's also diving deep into pure mathematics. He was exploring these fundamental patterns that you see all over nature, like the famous Fibonacci sequence, almost like he's trying to find the source code of the universe. And he wasn't afraid to go after the big guys in physics either. This question right here, it's digging into the relationship between some of the most fundamental constants and forces that run our cosmos. I mean, that's a classic foundational physics problem. So if we kind of zoom out, you can see 3 main themes taking shape. You've got the big picture theoretical physics, you've got this deep dive into pure math, and then, and this is the surprise, you've got these interdisciplinary angles that even touch on biology. For a single researcher, that is an incredibly wide intellectual net to cast. It just shows a mind driven by pure curiosity. Okay, this brings us to a really, really important point. To understand all this work, we've got to ask, how is it being shared with the world? And where does it actually fit into the bigger scientific community? So, the crucial thing to know is that this research was mostly shared on platforms like ResearchGate. This means it wasn't published in traditional, stuffy journals. These were preprints, proposals, and really exploratory ideas that were shared directly with the online research community. And this is where we need to talk about a really key difference in how science gets done. On one hand, you have the traditional peer review model. That's where your work gets tore apart and checked by other experts before it gets published in a journal. It's the gold standard. On the other hand, you've got self-publishing on platforms like ResearchGate, which lets you share new, raw ideas super fast without all that formal vetting. Honestly, both have a role to play. So at the end of the day, what we're really looking at with Loki Laboratories is a passionate exploration of scientific ideas. It's a showcase of some really intense curiosity and independent thinking, but it's separate from the world of formally validated, peer-reviewed science. This period of really intense, independent exploration eventually led to the next big chapter in his story, a major transition from his one-man lab back into the corporate world. And like we saw on the timeline, March of 2025 was that turning point. Kumar's full-time work at Loki Laboratories officially came to an end, and that signaled a huge pivot in his career. So where does he go next? He joins the Adani Group, which is this massive Indian conglomerate, and he takes on a role as a graduate engineering trainee. That's a pretty typical starting position for new engineering grads in big companies. It's all about practical, on-the-job training. It's just a complete shift from the blue-sky theoretical thinking of his own lab to the structured world of corporate engineering. So why does this whole story matter? Because it's a perfect snapshot of a very modern career path, right? You go from formal academic training to this period of intense, self-directed intellectual adventure, and then ultimately into the industrial workforce. It's a path a lot of curious, creative minds might find themselves on today. And all this leaves us with a really fascinating question for our time. In an age where literally anyone can get access to information and share their ideas with the entire planet instantly, what is the role of the independent researcher? What does it mean for innovation when the next huge idea might not come from a big university or a fancy lab, but from a solo operation in a place like Tirupati? It's definitely something to think about.